Welcome to Between Over and Next with your hosts, Holli and Robert, a happily married couple who explore the space between what was, what is, and what's to come. From career changes to navigating life's uncertainties, this dynamic duo will empower you to live your happiest life at every age and stage. So, get ready because your journey with Holli and Robert starts now.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Between Over and Next. Hi, Holli.
Hi, Robert.
Today's episode was inspired by a very early childhood incident. I've asked the question, what's your earliest memory? You think about, as a child, what is your earliest memory? And I remember a few things, but one of the things that came to mind as I started to explore this topic was I must have been, I'm going to say 5 or 6 or so, and I'm riding a bicycle with training wheels, and I'm riding along on the sidewalk, and I was kind of out of control on the bicycle, and I happened to bump into a lady who was walking on the sidewalk as I was riding the bike. And I remember, I think the fender of my bicycle hurt her leg. And that's a vivid memory of me on this red bicycle. It wasn't even inflatable wheels. They were hard wheels and training wheels. When I think about this moment, I think about the training wheels on this bicycle. And I don't know if that moment triggered it or what we're going to talk about triggered the memory, but it's one of my very first memories of being on the bicycle with training wheels. And I remember the moment when I finally learned how to ride a bike. Do you remember that?
Bicycle with the training wheels.
Right. And then you would slowly raise up the training wheels a little bit so they were less supportive and more there to if you tilted a little bit. And then eventually the training wheels came off completely. And I remember my father holding the back of the seat of the bicycle and running along as I'm pedaling. I remember that feeling of letting go and looking back, and he's there, but he's not holding the bicycle anymore, and I'm riding.
I had the same experience. I was in Brooklyn, and we were in the backyard, and my father was with me, and it's a vivid memory. And it's a major pivot of childhood. There's so many lessons learned through this training wheels, Robert. I mean,
yeah,
it's letting go, the letting go part. Oh, my goodness, for the parent.
Correct. As humans who may or may not have had children or taught someone to ride a bicycle, you think back to that moment when you able to ride a bicycle as a kid gave you incredible freedom that you didn't have.
And independence.
I remember one of the first things was riding to the gas station to get a soda out of the soda machine, because then gas stations didn't have mini marts attached to them. They were just gas stations.
I rode my bicycle to all my friends.
Yeah, I mean, it was around the neighborhood, and then you went as a group of kids. You rode, so you with friends. It was communal. But what sparked this thought to me was the fact that what we do, in many ways, is that hand on the back of the bicycle. We start out working with a client, and they're either on the tricycle or they're on the bicycle with training wheels because they're not ready yet.
And there's that in between. But there's the in between.
Correct. There's always the in between.
And there's the twists and the turns of life that are happening between the learning stage and the readiness stage.
Right. And what the training wheels, the metaphor,
yes,
when we talk about it, is the training wheels allow us to take the bike out and to maybe try it on a couple of different terrains. A bumpy road, a smooth road, sidewalks, the streets. Is it cobblestones? Is it a little gravelly? All of those terrains as we ride the bike, as the training wheels help us, it helps in different situations along that same path as the terrain changes. And that's really how we look at our roles. And what struck me about this is social media allows us to look in on people and to see what's up, to see what's going on. And we do with our friends, but we also do it with business associates, colleagues, clients, past clients, future clients. And it's something that gives you a glimpse, because when people share on social
or not,
it's very interesting. People will rarely share their non-successes. They'll quite often try and shape a non-success into a success, an illusion of success. And, for the most part, it probably goes unnoticed. But for anyone paying attention and kind of knows long-term stories, you get a sense of direction for things. So it gives us a lot of satisfaction in being able to watch our clients who we've worked with through the years really flourish and watch their growth and their pivots and their changes. And we feel really proud about the people who we've helped guide and helped avoid pitfalls and have shared ideas with and have given that little extra push to. And it's really nice to be able to look back on that and to see that path. Even the early web designers that we used and logo designers that were part of our world, that we look at what they're doing now and how they've grown and changed. And we were there to give them maybe one of their very first projects. And now they've gone on and had lots of success. But what that also allows us to do is allows us to evaluate those situations, those projects, those clients that we weren't maybe necessarily able to bring to fruition for a myriad of reasons. We're out to dinner last night with our friend Stu, who we interviewed a couple episodes back. And we were talking about clients and how our roles, because his capacity in PR in a lot of ways is very similar to what we provide our clients as well, in advising them and helping them shape their approach. And there are instances where clients try to take those training wheels off
way too
soon. And there's a great deal of empowerment these days, mainly due to the amount of information that's available to us at our fingertips. But what we find, and I don't like to harp on this, but there's a lot of what I call fake experts out there. People who profess to know things and be experts at things, and basically they're book taught. They learned about it, which is fine in a lot of cases. English teachers are not necessarily authors, but they teach English. Science teachers may not be scientists, but they are able to teach science, other people's science. So there's lots of things in which you don't necessarily need to have walked the walk. But there are others, and especially in business and when you're advising and teaching, that when you have the experience of having done it yourself, you're able to have information that others don't have. In the event space, where we have spent so much of our time, and for me to have been at so many events and being able to observe and see what works, what doesn't work, and to have insight that others would not have. So in the wedding world, there are vendors who are on site with you at your wedding and experiencing the day with you. And there are other wedding vendors that you work with that provide services that are never at the wedding or experience the wedding itself. That's a very different type of perspective than someone who lives the experience there. And I think that's true in much of business. But more importantly, when you're teaching and mentoring others, there is no better person to do that than to someone who has walked in those shoes, who has done those things, who in the real world understands what can happen in a live stream broadcast situation. All of the things that could possibly go wrong that you prepare for, down to having extra batteries for the wireless microphone ready, taped to the back of the battery of the microphone pack. Those things you could never, ever know without having someone who's experienced it, who has done that.
Interesting with weddings, particularly, is you don't get a second chance to get it right. You are documenting a live event. It's not like a sitcom. You're not taking multiple takes. Really,
much of life, there are no second chances.
That is correct. You anticipate all of the details of the day, from the moment you're packing up your gear to what camera you're going to use, where you're going to position yourself. You know what you need to do from the moment you arrive.
The advantage that someone has when working with an advisor, a mentor, that is someone who truly is an expert in the field. We've always heard what the criteria is that makes someone an expert.
It's a number of hours.
At the highest level, they say you need to have done something for 10,000 hours in order to be able to consider yourself an expert.
Well, you talked about what did you call it? I think they should be in the Urban Dictionary.
Fake experts.
Fake experts. Okay, I like that. One. I also believe in being open to knowing that you really might not know the best possible way to accomplish what you want to accomplish. So when we're working with people, we want to set them up for success. And we give a lot of ourselves when we are working with someone.
I keep kind of going back to the wedding world, but I was never one to base my coverage on what type of camera I used or things that were quantifiable. I used whatever tools I needed to accomplish the task. So I had a very hard time creating different packages, the silver and the gold and all of that, because my philosophy was if you engaged my services, you were getting all 120% of me. I don't know where to cut back. What don't I do? And that, to me, is how we work with clients, that I want it to be all-encompassing. I don't want to ever say, well, we can't share that information with our client because they don't pay us for that information. How could you possibly do that? If I have information that can help someone, I'm going to share that.
So
where do you draw the line?
It's interesting because I'm thinking about the confusion between perhaps experts and specialists. There are lots of different words that you can use to describe people who are helping others in life and or business, right? You hear about life coaches all the time and business coaches all the time, okay? So you hear about coaches, you hear about consultants, you hear about advisors, a lot of times financial advisors. You have trainers. Like sometimes you're at a corporate event and there's someone to train you on something very specific.
Right.
You have teachers, like you already mentioned.
And I was looking for the right opportunity in which to use this example. When you are hiring an expert in something, don't you want to see their expertise in that thing? Let's say your specialty was you're a hiking guide out on the trails, and yet you were always getting lost. Why would anybody want to use you as a guide, right? Why would you want a personal trainer that was severely out of shape? Why would you want to use a matchmaker who wasn't married and single? Why would you entrust a marriage and relationship
agree.
expert that wasn't in a healthy relationship.
I don't get it.
So that's why when you make it look easy,
Which
when you
we
make it look effortless,
which we do.
we're guilty of this. It gives sometimes people false confidence that, oh, this looks so easy, let me do it. And then they immediately begin to fail. Everyone these days is watching, and everyone picks up on nuance, and everyone picks up on where people are cutting corners and what they're pulling back on and what they're not necessarily spending money on anymore. Does it come down to money? False confidence, let's call it, right? Are you confident for the right reasons? And maybe we need to evaluate that when we start to work with a client that may not have the right personality type. That, let's say their ego gets in the way. Let's say you're working with a client who has such a big ego that no matter what you do or demonstrate to them, they're not willing to take that information in because they're always approaching it with, I know better. Which says to me, if you have that approach, then why would you want to bring an advisor in, someone to help you?
I did look up a couple of definitions. So an advisor offers strategies and recommendations about a specific event. So what should be done, whether it be a brand, a product, a service, or a specific part of that business. Then you have mentoring. Mentoring implies a long-term relationship where experiential wisdom is offered to help build many aspects of the learner's career. So a mentor is usually a trusted counselor or guide. So is the client's vision realistic? You really do need to talk all of this through on a regular basis to make sure everyone's on the same page. Because we have had people that settle. I mean, we do not settle. You said it last night, I guess, at dinner. So we don't just yes people.
Well, that's the thing. I always talk about this with my clients. And I have clients that we've been working with for years. And that level of trust has built and grown and solidified. And I always say, you don't bring me in here just to say yes to you. When I come aboard and I'm working with a client, especially in a capacity where it's highly technical. For example, is Harlem Week. There are so many moving parts, so many days of things that unless you're totally immersed for the months that we work on it, right? Because something like that doesn't happen. We start working on it almost immediately once one is over. So many moving parts that I'm lucky that I have the experience that I have in doing these things in this type of environment, that I can now help them in other areas that we didn't even anticipate was going to be part of that mix.
So really it is about continuous growth and development.
Absolutely. When you finish one piece, right? You know, that piece
Births another piece.
exactly. And it's something that you build upon, goes into your toolbox.
The early guidance sets the foundation.
Right.
And true mastery requires ongoing refinement and support.
Sure, absolutely. Because what do you say? You have to always evaluate, assess, right?
Plan, do, review, assess, repeat. Plan, do, review, assess,
So if
repeat.
you're not doing all of those things, if you're just doing, you're not assessing, and you're making changes that you think are going unnoticed, yet those changes are making more noise than you ever anticipated, and it's becoming an issue when you're not even realizing it. In these last few years, have such a firm understanding of what it is that we're here for.
And what the training wheels do, because they provide stability, balance, and the confidence to learn the basics of writing without the fear of falling.
Correct.
Right?
And that confidence.
But when those training wheels come off too soon, that is when there's an overestimation for readiness for independence.
There's a couple of kids across the courtyard from where we live, and they're maybe 7 and 9. Probably just learned in the last year or so. And they ride back and forth, and they're riding, but they don't have real control over their bikes.
The beginners.
They're beginners. They're trying to find their balance.
We're all beginners at one point, but this is really important. When your mentee or your client takes off the training wheels too soon, they've convinced themselves that they've learned everything there is to know. Now, how is that possible? We have been fine-tuning our skills, our talents, our creativity, our know-how for the past 33 years together, the work we've been doing together.
Correct.
There's value in continuous guidance, Robert.
Yes, I agree.
It's part of our values. It really is about maximizing success and minimizing the mistakes.
How many times have we talked about foresight? When we work with our clients, we really
we want them to move forward.
But we take a much more personal approach to everything. We really do try our best to put ourselves in the shoes of our clients, to understand that comfort level completely different, and what we know and feel inside, and we have to consciously be aware of what our clients need
and what they
at
want
that time, and be able to anticipate what the questions will be, anticipate what those next steps will be, because we understand that when you've accomplished something, that the natural thing is to move to the next.
So you also need to be able to identify the pitfalls and also the opportunities.
And listen,
because most clients going to overlook them because they don't know what they don't know.
That's absolutely true. The line I love the most when we're talking to our clients, when we give them an idea, when we tell them something, is when they say, "Oh, I didn't think of that." Well, of course you didn't think of that. That's why you have us. Okay?
Right.
That's it. Don't you get it? Because we are your foresight. We have that information that we know you're going to need.
And we want you to grow and succeed.
Right. Your success is our success. So,
right. So our insights and our encouragement are only going to benefit you in the long term. You have short-term goals and long-term goals, and you need to assess your performance, meaning your involvement as the client and that of us as the coach or consultant or mentor.
And be willing to help others without any expectation of anything in return, except for being able to return the favor. Right? There was someone that posted a question this morning on one of the local boards on Facebook asking if there were any event experts that worked with nonprofits. It was a back and forth that may have taken 15 or 20 minutes of my time, but I was able to answer some questions and give a little bit of guidance, giving that perspective to someone that they hadn't thought of before. Kind of takes that off, because this person was thinking like, what did I do wrong? Why are they not thinking that I'm worth it? And instead, there may be something totally else at play. And she didn't even think about that. Like, oh, maybe it's not me.
Right.
Maybe there's an agenda that I'm not aware of that just is affecting me. There's so much more at play.
I think there's also a lot of times decisions are made prematurely, without talking it through and redefining the roles that you play, because ultimately you want high performance, right? You want excellence. You want to deliver excellence no matter what you're doing. That is our motto.
Yes, and we're lucky because when we work with clients, in all cases, working with the very top of that organization, right? The people who are founders, CEOs, the people in charge, okay?
Decision
makers, because what the problem becomes as you get deeper into the corporate structure, that it's really just cover your ass kind of a thing. And you don't really get done what needs to get done. In a entrepreneurial space, when you're dealing with that top level all the time, things can get done a lot quicker. Progress happens a lot quicker.
Not only that,
that
we
we're
also,
able to
you always talk about the foresight. So it really is about the complexities that may be on the path ahead.
Yeah.
Just like in life, the road could be bumpy, but there's always a solution for it. We have the solutions. We really love working with people who are excited about launching their next big thing.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot that we can help businesses with in front of the camera, behind the camera, events and podcasts and video and so many other branding opportunities to shine and to stand out and to make a difference.
Oh yeah, I think at the core of everything that we do is to help people make a difference.
So overall, Robert, I think it's really important to embrace being a lifelong learner and to always maintain balance and know what's best for you and your business.
Oh yeah, remaining aware.
Having that sixth sense, you've had lots of red flags in your
Oh yeah, I mean,
career.
especially in the video world and in weddings, there was a time where I would take whatever booking came my way. Didn't matter. I wouldn't think about turning anything down. And as time went on, there was immediate red flags that I would see, and it would be like, "There's no way I'm taking this."
It comes down to like, know, and trust. Ultimately, we want everyone we know to reach their fullest potential.
We want people in our world to have what they should have. And if that means giving someone some advice, if that means helping, we know that that will come back to us. And listen, we talked about it again. Last night we covered so many things with Stu last night at dinner. How many times you've been burned by people who you trusted and that you gave yourself and you said, okay, let's let the universe. And it didn't work out, and you got the short end of the stick, as they say.
You and I are really fortunate to have one another, to bounce off ideas, to provide input based on our personalities, experiences, and expertise. But not everyone is really aware of who they are, what they can accomplish on their own or not. Why wouldn't someone want to know that there was someone there that had their back for answering any question regarding their business?
Different people require different things to get through their day, and that may not become evident right away. Relationships, professionally, personally, evolve over time.
We've learned how to manage expectations better. It's taken a while. I mean, that's something we've really learned.
Yeah, and listen, we talk about it all the time. When one door closes, another one opens. When one window closes, another one opens. Well, sometimes the door slams first, and then another door opens. Sometimes the door closes quietly on its own, or sometimes you close the door. So there are different reasons for transitions happening. And those reasons a lot of times dictate the outcome of that transaction. So as long as you go into your business relationships, your personal relationships with eyes wide open, with manageable expectations, and with knowing that success should breed a deeper, more meaningful relationship. And if that doesn't happen, then you're in the wrong relationship. Because when you feed a relationship those things, those successes, right? The dopamine of those actions, of those successes, should be what fuels the continuation of that. And when that doesn't happen, there's a breakdown somewhere.
And I love being a giver. I
Yeah.
really do. I am
But
very
we've-
proud of everything that we have given of ourselves, of our knowledge.
But what I want ultimately to come out of this episode is everyone goes through the same situations. We all see and feel those same ups and downs of our personal and professional relationships. I just want to kind of put it out there that what you may be experiencing is not unique, that many of us go through those types of things from time to time, and that's just part of our learning process. We always take away those valuable nuggets from each adventure of ours, no matter how long or short they are. That's just the way we roll.
I continue to learn and I continue to share the lessons we've learned so we can elevate the way you think, the way you show up, the way you conduct yourself in real life and in business, because everyone's watching.
Yeah, that's the thing. Everyone is watching. And if you think it doesn't matter, it does matter. So just kind of be aware of that.
And be select.
Yeah, absolutely. Time is precious. And
in what you do and why you do it and who you do it with. Make sure it's meaningful, and that will fulfill you.
exactly. So thanks for being with us today on Between Over and Next. And we certainly hope that your bicycle riding without training wheels will continue to be steady and you'll stay upright and on the right path. Thanks for tuning in to Between Over and Next. We hope you enjoyed this episode and found it meaningful and insightful.
If you value it to be worthwhile, please share it with your friends and family.
We would really appreciate it if you could take a moment to write a review for us. Your feedback will help us continue to create content that resonates with you.
And don't forget, in the show notes, you can find all the relevant links mentioned in this episode, from accessing free downloads to visiting our website and more.
If you have any questions or comments, we would love to hear from you. Simply send us an email. Our email address is hello@hollyandrobert.com. We're always excited to connect with our listeners.
So until next time, thank you again for joining us on Between Over and Next.
Thank you for listening to Between Over and Next, the podcast that navigates the twists and turns of life with courage, laughter, and a whole lot of inspiration. Tune in every Tuesday to hang out with Holli and Robert on your favorite podcast platform. Visit hollyandrobert.com and follow them on social media to ignite your passion and fuel your dreams.